In early November, Sophos XDR detections became generally available. The Sophos development process allows us to continuously add new capabilities. This week, the capability that's been turned on is pivoting from context information available in a detection. As you should already be aware, Sophos detections classify activity in your environment that map to the MITRE attack matrix. MITRE attack matrix is a mapping of activity that adversaries have been observed performing. And in this case, we've classified a PowerShell that was encoded. This classification, in Sophos' opinion, for where we've seen it and the device that we've seen it on, is relatively high risk. We've given it a risk score of 8. It's been seen twice on the same device. When we expand this accordion, we can see some more information about the two detections that have happened. Both of those, again, happened on the same device located in Beverly, Massachusetts. So we do geolocation of the sensor information. And we identify the process that was convicted with the classification rule. In this case, two different PowerShells were doing base 64 encoding. Encoded command was run to pull information down from the internet, and it looks like an encoded string was used here in a registry key. Each of those have additional context that's available. You can see the process that was run, the user that ran it, something called a Sophos process ID. That's the process ID assigned at the process start, plus the time of its execution. When did it start? See, these started at slightly different times. This one started earlier. It's probably the parent of the one up here, but we'll see that in a moment. With pivoting, you have the ability to take a context-sensitive investigation forward very rapidly. Here we know the name of a device. Pivoting shows us that there are other queries that can take device as input, or an action can be taken directly on the device. Say I was worried that this device were actively under attack, and I needed to log in and kill a process immediately. I can go to that device with a privileged session over a secure channel, running as system admin, and launch PowerShell, make changes to registry keys, kill processes, view all the task lists, whatever I need to do. It's all available from this command interface. All the activities also logged, so there's an audit trail of the actions the admin was involved with. Here we also see pivots that are available that are associated to the Sophos process ID and SHA-256. In this case, the SHA-256 is for PowerShell. If an admin's worried whether PowerShell is a legitimate tool in their environment, they can quickly go out to VirusTotal and see that it's distributed by Microsoft. It's part of the operating system. PowerShell isn't the problem here. It's how PowerShell was being used. And we can also go ahead and do something with the path information. The path information of newly installed executables will allow us to do something called generating a threat graph. A threat graph is the renamed capability called threat cases. I've already requested one in the past, so it's notifying me that that threat graph is probably already available. So if I take a look at my threat graphs and the admin requested ones, I can see that I have requested the threat graph for Splunk D. And we'll go ahead and open that up. That threat graph takes about a minute or two to generate, sometimes longer depending on the complexity of the environment or the attack that was involved. Here we can see the basic information. PowerShell was the parent to Splunk D. It also wrote the Splunk D executable, and the Splunk D executable launched another PowerShell. If we take a look at the full graph, we can see the scope of the adversarial's actions in this environment. They were doing lots of things. It isn't just that Splunk D ran a single PowerShell, it ran multiple PowerShells. Each of those PowerShells doing something a little bit different each time. The command line for each are available. So in this case, this is a PowerShell command line where it looks like they were looking at the user's environment, probably collecting information on the machine. Those detections are almost certainly in the Sophos detections dashboard as well as activity that was seen and scored across the environment. You can see the VM test 1 machine has a number of classifications that happened, all at about the same time. Each of those has context-aware pivots that are available from the virus total lookup to logging in directly to that device, generating a process tree. Perhaps you want to take a deeper investigation on the user and say, well, what's the user's authentication attempts into their environment? Maybe this attack is an adversary that's compromised a user's account. Those queries are available. They take the input from the context that's available, bring up the query that takes that as input, and allows an administrator to select any additional variables. When do I want to look for this authentication time? And then go ahead and run the query. Pivoting is just the latest feature that's been turned on. More will be turned on over the next several weeks. We'll be adding a time range filter here. We'll allow you to select individual devices or groups of devices to perform filters on. And most exciting, in early December, will allow you to perform deeper investigations where you can assign it to one or more admins to track the investigation progress, take notes, perform additional actions, identify indicators of compromise, and eventually mark a case as closed or archived if you want to hold it for forensics evidence for a longer duration. Thank you very much.